challenges are you guys facing right now? What kinds of pivots do you foresee having to make with your cultures?
So
that's a question to everyone here.
Yeah, so for us, one of the challenges we face right now is we're in a highly regulated space. So dealing with regulators is obviously challenging, but in the wagering space, we're highly regarded with the regulators. In the blockchain or crypto space, there is no regulatory clarity. So the lack of regulatory clarity is making it challenging for us as a company, to operate with clear lines on what we can and can't do. So it creates a bit of stress on our team, number one. But we're working through it. I think about when I have these talks with the team and what we're going through and all the legal work that we're spending and dealing with regulators, I say to them, listen, I don't want to compare us, but look at some of the challenges that some of the biggest companies have gone through. Look at what Tesla went through when they had every single energy company, every single oil and gas company, every single municipality, government, whatever, going after them, saying and car company going after them, saying you can't build these electric cars, and we're going to shut you down. Look at Lyft, look at Uber, where they had taxi companies going after them, and governments and lobbyists and all this other shit that they had to deal with. How did they get through it? And how did they survive, right? And they did it because they persevered. They believed in what they were doing, and they didn't run away. And so that's kind of the culture that we're trying to drive that thinking into our company. It's hard. I have to tell you, it's hard. But I do want to say something else about how important a strong culture is. So when you think about the startup space, it's very typical just to create a logo and put it on a T-shirt, that kind of thing, or this is whatever.
Is that a unicorn?
Yeah, that's a unicorn. But a brand is much more than the logo you put on a T-shirt, right? A brand is everything. It's like a living, breathing entity within the company, and it starts with, first of all, you have to have an amazing product that your customers love. Secondly, you have to have a team that not only loves the product, but they're culturally strong and they really believe in it and they live and breathe and eat and sleep this product. And then third, the one thing that most companies lack is a fan base that's going to carry you, like a community, and you're building community, and you have these people who are out there evangelizing your product regardless of what happens. Like if you're getting challenged by regulators or people are screaming at you about something, you have somebody that's going to speak up and say, whoa, this company is great because I love them. And very few companies have that part nailed. Apple nailed it when Steve Jobs came back and they were facing on the brink of bankruptcy. Who was in the audience watching them and cheering them on? His fan base, right? Tesla, they have a massive fan base. They don't advertise at all. They have a massive fan base of people who drive their cars and will evangelize their cars till their death. Ferrari has a fan base. Very few companies have that fan base. But if you can create that, then that all becomes the foundation of your brand, and your brand becomes a living, breathing entity. Those are the three things that are so important. So culture may be important, but it's just part of it, right? You have to have all of that in order to build it.
Yeah, it's the internal and external. Yeah. That's great advice. Shauna.
I agree with all that. Well, I'm sitting in between two kind of brilliant minds who are building really complicated businesses. Like, I can't even wrap my head around trying to build one of these businesses. So hats off, big time. Mine is a service business. So at the end of the day, I'm a person who uses other people for services, and I like people who get back to me quickly and who are friendly and who I want to do business with. So our business is, it's not as complicated, and so the things that might put pressure on our business are really thinking about some of the structural changes that we can make to create more efficiencies so that we can be faster and smarter. One of the things that we do that I think is great is we bring in guest speakers to the company to make our recruiters smarter. So whether it's a venture capitalist or an attorney or a very high-level engineer or a coach, we bring in people so that our recruiters can talk the talk and understand their audience better. And so that's kind of our sweet spot, is really that high-touch consultative approach. But there's a lot of money to be made in these kind of large enterprise clients, and that's some of the business that we're doing business with, and they like the fact that we're women-owned. And we want that business because I think it's kind of a little bit more of a flywheel business. Kind of think the Alaska Airlines, T-Mobile, Microsoft, these bigger companies. But that's a cultural shift for us because you can't give the same type of service. It's a lot more kind of fast turnaround, quick. They measure you on how many resumes you're presenting, and they give you scorecards and stuff. And we're just trying to understand if that's where we want to go because we've got revenue targets, or if we can build it by just doing more of the same. And because we've gotten a pretty good name in the startup world, and so we get a lot of referrals, which is great. But it's way harder business. People are like, no, there's a reason why we don't have a lot of competition because there's not a lot of recruiters who want to play in that space because startups change their mind and they're like, oh, I ran into my buddy at the gym and I hired him after like 4 months of a search. So or they kind of figure out the job description as they're going through the interview process, and I understand it completely, but it's the sexy business, it's just not the easiest business. So that's a cultural thing we're kind of going through, is trying to figure out where we fit.